Hi guys, this is Brett from Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. This is in response, and it's a little bit late from whenever he first posted it, but Andy from Tactical Jackalope, he asked the question, what first inspired you to get into models, building models? My story's probably not very different from a lot of guys. My dad was my first influence back in the early 60s. I was born in 64, but back in the early 60s, and then on up into the early 70s, he was really into flying model planes. The balsa wood, the ones that you assemble yourself, balsa wood. You stretch the tissue across, you apply some stuff called dope, it tightens up the skin, and they had gas engines in them, and they had the control wire. They weren't radio controlled back then, they had a control wire, and you basically flew them around in a circle, and him and his buddies would go out and fly those. So my dad was kind of a creative guy and liked to build models, and he also dabbled in plastic models. And I can remember the first time that he took me to buy my first model. We went to a corner, I guess they used to call them five and dime stores, kind of a sundries type place. They sold a little bit of everything, and they had a toy section, and it had models. And mind you, this is probably 67, 68. Probably, I think it was 1968, because I can remember where I lived whenever this happened. He took me down, and he helped me pick out my first model, and this model was based on one of my interests at the time, which was the old Batman and Robin TV series with Adam West and Burt Ward as Robin, and that was the first kit that I got. My dad bought this Robin kit, and as you can see, I'm getting this off the internet, but it had Robin, and it had like a electrical control box or something like that. And I remember building that model, and my dad, he kind of gave me some guidance, but he pretty much let me do it. And I was good grief, I was probably 5 years old maybe. So that was my first introduction to model building, and from then I really dug it. And another contributor to my interest in modeling was during that same time period, the space program was really hopping and in the news. I can remember where I was even at that age when I watched the first man walk on the moon on TV, and that was really impactful. I mean, for a long time as a child, I wanted to be an astronaut, and because of that, my mom, she signed me up in a model, or not a model, but a science club, and it was basically focused on the space program. And you'd get like these little sticker books, and you'd go through and it'd give information, and you'd take stickers and stick them where the illustration was supposed to be in this book. And one of the things is periodically they would send a model of something from the space program. And I remember having the lunar module and the command module. And those were some neat kits. I really don't remember what the brand was. I think they might have been Aurora. But those were just a blast. It was space, it was models, and I painted them, and they were horrible, and but they were a lot of fun. And then from that point up until say junior high, every once in a while I'd get a model kit and build it, and it was generally either warships or military aircraft, generally World War II. Country really didn't matter. Built a few automobiles during the mid 70s, whenever the whole 50s revival was going on with bands like Sha Na Na, and you had Happy Days, stuff like that. You know, I had an interest in that because, you know, that's when my dad grew up, and he would play that, you know, old 50s and early 60s music sometimes, and I enjoyed it. So I'd build, like, you know, 57 Chevy Bel Airs and stuff like that. And, you know, I enjoyed building them, and I would paint them and, you know, do them the best I could. But it didn't really hit me until junior high, and I can credit that to a friend of mine named Dean Hendricks. He lived down the street from us whenever I lived in the mountains, and he was really into. We were both really into World War II, and he had built some models at one time, and he gave me one of Shepard Payne's diorama sheets, you know, tips on building dioramas that came with the Monogram Armor series, and it was the M4 Hedgehog. And I remember seeing, that was the first time I'd ever seen a model other than just sitting on a shelf. You know, it was on a base. You know, there was a hedgerow. There was armored infantry with the tank. You know, it looked like they were advancing through this hedgerow. You know, had the hedgerow cutter on the front. Knocked out German soldier in the hedgerow, and I that just blew me away. I saw that and I thought, well, good grief, you know, the possibilities are endless with building models and what you can do and how you can display them, and it really, really blew me away. And this was the summer of '76, and that did it for me right there. So. We were down at another, you know, sundries type place called Sprouse Ritz, and we were in the store and we were bopping through there. I was with my mom, and they had like a toy area over on the side wall, and I saw some models, and I saw one, and it nearly knocked me out. I thought, you know what? I said, Mom. Took her over and showed her, and you know, they weren't very much, and so she bought it for me, and it was the Monogram Screamin' Mimi. And this is it. And I don't know if you can tell on here, but there's a lot of creases and folds on this thing. This is the very diorama tips on building dioramas that came in that kit in 1976. I've kept it all this time, and this to me was the turning point in building models. It's kind of unexplainable, but this was the pinnacle to me. An armor kit, I instantly fell in love with armor. Modeling, I mean, I'd always liked tanks and movies and so forth, but you know, this did it for me. And you know, it's creased, but this is from 1976, guys. I've had this thing that long, never gotten rid of it. So this was the first one that I did, and this was it. I dug it. It was what I wanted to build. So I pretty much, from that point on, the majority of my models were armor kits. Here's another one, the Panzer Spawagen. This is also from the same time period, 76, maybe 77. This is the original one. This is a kit I bought down at that Sprouse Ritz store. And just seeing the on the back of these, I don't know if you guys are, you know, I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with these, but on the back he shows, you know, how he makes modifications, you know, on the kit. You know, on the inside, you know, it shows just all kinds of great stuff. You know, the finished model, how to paint the figures, you know, they're kind of in the center, how you paint the figures' faces, you know, over here on I guess it'd be the right, maybe the left, I don't know, right here. He shows how he used, you know, reference materials to you know, improve the accuracy, and you know, this is it. That's what got me going. Here's another one, same time period. This is when they went away from doing them color, but it was tips on building dioramas. M48 patent. Monogram to me was just, it was it. Monogram was the best manufacturer in my world. You know, this is another one, same time period. And then, you know, I thought this was kind of funny considering the big Stug build that just happened, but this was the Monogram Sturmgeschütz 4. You know, another one, same time period. This is all from left over from my formative modeling years. So that really got me going. That was it. You know, I've built models off and on since then. I could go into more stuff, but that's not the question here. You know, the question is what influenced me and got me into model building. And first and foremost, it was my dad. He got me going with Robin. And then my buddy Dean Hendricks down the street. Monogram armor kits. That's what did it. That's what got me going. And from then on, off and on through the years, I've always come back to modeling as a way to kind of unwind, relax, and you know, just relieve some tension. It's just such a great hobby, and I owe a lot to both of those people because it's given me tons of satisfaction and relaxation and joy. You know, it sounds kind of hokey, but you know, that's what did it for me. My dad and my friend Dean Hendricks, they got me going with model building, and I appreciate it, and I've enjoyed it ever since. And obviously, because here I am. So anyway, hope that's kind of informative, and you know, you guys kind of enjoy this little video, kind of explaining how I got started and what influenced me to build model kits. So anyway, that's it for this time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Plastic Models by Regular Dude.